So you're recording an audiobook on ACX and the deal goes south. What should you do? Well, let's talk about that.
456 Studios.
All right, so the deal goes south in ACX. It really depends on where this happens at. Is this before the first 15-minute check-in, or is this after? And it becomes a little bit more difficult either way, and there's different things that come into play depending upon where you're at. So let's say it is the first 15 minutes. So on ACX, when you do an audiobook, you have a first kind of 15-minute checkpoint that you give to the author or rights holder, and you're basically saying, hey, I've completed my check-in. Would you take a listen to this? Is this what you were thinking in terms of narration? Is this going to be good? It doesn't have to be the first 15 minutes of the book. You can split that up and put in whatever you want for the first 15 minutes to kind of give them an example of how you're going to narrate. Maybe you give them a couple main character lines if there's dialogue in there, or a couple of important kind of points or segments and chapters if it's, something like nonfiction without any dialogue. Just something to give them an example of what you're going to do for the work. And if they approve that, great, you're going to go forth and you're going to record that audiobook. But let's say they don't. Let's say right there, the deal kind of comes to an end, right? They say, hey, I don't really like this. Maybe you can redo this part and fix it. And let's say you do a re-recording. They're like, no, it still is not going to work for me. I think we need to end the deal here. I need to find somebody else or whatever. In the standard terms of the contract, ACX does outline kind of what that process is and what they say. So in section D, kind of subsection I of that, they outline kind of this exact scenario. So in either case where they've rejected it or they've rejected it a couple of times, that's just you're not coming to that agreement. Basically, what you can do is either party may terminate this agreement, and this is their verbiage, by providing written notice of termination to the other through the ACX messaging system itself, so not through email, within ACX, their messaging system, and sending a copy of this message to info@acx.com no later than 10 business days following the end of the producer revision period or the date on which the rights holder rejected the revision, as applicable. No fee or compensation of any kind will be payable to either party to the other in conjunction with any termination of this agreement pursuant to the foregoing sentence. So basically you can kind of get out of it by, both of you sending an email to info@acx.com and saying, hey, just kind of dissolve it, right? No payment is really due to either party. You've kind of taken care of that up front and figured out that, we're going to go our separate ways on this particular project, right? So no harm, no foul. So you go through the first 15 minutes and they say, yeah, it's great. I like the direction. Go for it. And you record the entire audiobook. And now comes time to turn it in. You've passed all the technical checks and the rights holder and author gets their chance to kind of review it. And they say, I don't like this. No, I don't want to put this up. And you're in the position of, I just recorded the whole audiobook. You said that it was good to go at the first 15 minutes. Well, now what do you do? Well, there is a provision for that written into the ACX contract too, and we'll get to that if it starts to get to that point. What I would recommend is always communicate with the author and rights holder the best that you can, right? Use the ACX messaging system for official communication, but if you have to kind of take it off to email to work out some of the little details, like, well, hey, what part did you not like? Maybe you send them that message. What part didn't you like? Maybe I can re-record that specific section and make it better and up to what kind of you were more thinking. As long as it's not, egregious, right? They're like, nah, I want you to re-record 80% of the audiobook. Well, okay, at that point, I don't think anybody's going to be willing to do that. If you are, great, but most people, including myself, we're not going to be okay with that. So what do? Remember, customer support is kind of our thing as audiobook and narrators and voice actors, right? Like taking care of that client and getting that repeat work is kind of a thing. Sometimes it can't happen, but you should always try to maintain that relationship and try to be as professional as possible. try to work out that communication, try to work out some way to come to an agreement, right? If you can't, though, then there is actions that can happen underneath the actual contract for ACX. In section 8B, they outline kind of what that is, depending upon what your contract is with or how you're doing the audiobook, right? Are you doing royalty share? Are you doing a paid per finished hour project? Are you doing, some kind of agreement to distribute with like a royalty share plus kind of thing where you're getting like per finished hour and royalty share or something like that? So I'll just put this up here on the screen and you can kind of read along with exactly what they have here. They have some provisions for that. Basically, if there's a need to terminate after you've completed it, we'll go down to the first section here under B, under the first one, I. If the rights holder and producer have agreed to a one-time production fee arrangement, so this is kind of like here's your fee, this is what I'm going to pay you for it. The rights holder must pay the producer, you, a cancellation fee equal to 50% of the estimated production fee as set forth in the deal confirmation page. So that's good news, right? If you agreed to a one-time fee, they have to pay 50% of it. They don't have to release it and we can kind of dissolve this thing, but you got to pay me 50% of what we agreed upon before we're going to do that, right? And under no circumstances should you ever hit the confirm button to release this audiobook out if you haven't come to an agreement, right? Don't release your projects unless you've gotten paid, right? You're entitled to that. You've done the work at this point, so you're going to get paid somehow, right? Let's go down to the second section here, II. If rights holder and producer have agreed to a royalty share arrangement without a fixed fee payment, rights holder must pay the producer a cancellation fee equal to $100 base plus $100 per finished hour times the projected number of finished hours in 10-minute increments in the deal confirmation page, up to a maximum of $2,500. So they can't just walk away after you've done the whole thing. They've got to pay up that base $100 fee plus that per hour fee up to a maximum of $2,500, right? Let's go back to the verbiage again. Underneath III, the third one, if rights holder and producer have agreed to a royalty share arrangement with a fixed fee payment, rights holder must pay the producer a cancellation fee equal to $100 base plus the agreed per finished hour rate on the deal confirmation page, times the projected number of finished hours in 10-minute increments in the deal confirmation page, up to a maximum of $2,500. Again, the rights holder may not cancel producer's engagement under this section 8B after rights holder has approved the completed audiobook. The completed audiobook means the audio recording of the entire book following the editing and or mastering process. So you're already done, it's already released, the audiobook they've approved it. They can't cancel it after the fact, right? Like it's already up and ready to go out. And they're like, yeah, never mind. No, they can't do that. So it has to go out at that point. They can't cancel it. I would remind your rights holder, your author, your rights holder of this agreement. You can highlight this for them, right? Try to be as professional as possible, not try to, threaten or attack really, at least at first, with, threatening legal. But if it comes down to that, that may be your only other option. From a lot of different posts and stuff that I've seen on, Facebook and different groups, ACX really lately hasn't gone to bat for producers, the narrators, and they kind of try to let you handle it on your own, work it out between, the rights holder and the audiobook narrator, which is, in my book, kind of bad form. They should be sticking up a little bit more for the producers in this case, because you've done the work, especially in this case where you've done the work. But if you have to, you might need to get legal counsel involved. And this is kind of the contract that you both agreed to. And this would be something that you might want to point out to the right holders. Like, hey, just so you know, if this doesn't go live, we can definitely terminate it. But this is kind of what we're subject to here, right? So, hey, depending upon your agreement, you pay me half of that fee that we agreed to, or the $100 and then the 10-minute increment of $100 up to the $2,500, depending upon what the agreement was and the contract was. Or, I've got to get legal involved in this matter. One place that you could look at that might be a good avenue to turn to is law-arts.org. And they're kind of an organization that helps out, actors and entertainers, creatives with different legal kind of things. And it may be worth just reaching out to them and asking them at this point, hey, what do you think I should do in this case? And they may be able to help you out. Not guaranteeing that, and obviously none of this is actually legal advice because I am not a lawyer or attorney, so I can't tell you. But this is how I would handle it, right? I'd first try to handle it myself, and then remind them of the contract if it's getting to a point where they're, it looks like you're not going to come to an agreement. Remind them of what the deal is. Hey, I finished, and this is kind of what the contract says. You're still going to owe me payment for this. So you sure we want to go down this route of just saying, let's scrap it, right? Are you sure there's nothing I can kind of fix for you that's reasonable? And then if all else fails and you've reminded them of, kind of the contract, then you might have to at that point get legal involved. And that whole process is going to suck either way, right? But here's a couple of things that you could do that hopefully helps you out. And if this helped you out, go ahead and leave me a thumbs up if you would. And if you have any other suggestions of ways that you could handle it, or if you have experienced this in the past, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear the story and how kind of that turned out and what you had to do in those circumstances to either kind of get the rights holder to come to an agreement, or if you kind of settled amicably and you went your separate ways. I'd love to hear your story. But yeah, I've been seeing this a lot, so I thought I'd kind of share my 2 cents on it and give you guys hopefully some ways to tackle this situation if you ever come across it. Hopefully you don't. But until next time, I'll talk to you then. Get out there and do some recording.